If you are over 40 and you notice some leaking, sense of heaviness, your orgasm become weaker, or maybe you just have a strange feeling down there, you are definitely not alone and you are not broken. But the most common advice you might hear may not be complete. Today I'll cover what actually happens with our pelvic floor after 40 and some connections you may not realize that could help you improve your pelvic floor health. I'm a coach for menopause and perimenopause, and I teach yoga since 2010. And I will share with you some things every woman should know after 40 about her pelvic floor and some great and simple tips that will help you almost immediately and in the long run to improve your pelvic floor health. While there are so many factors that influence the quality and the functioning of our pelvic floor, literally all the history of our life and our genetic influences how we will cope with the pelvic floor issues and if we will have one later in life. After age of 40 and especially in menopause, many women, more than a half statistically, will have some kind of pelvic floor dysfunction. And it happens because of all of the factors, including our life history, natural aging, and menopause. Estrogen start fluctuating in perimenopause. That can start 10 years before a woman will enter in menopause. And we know that estrogen actually support collagen production. Collagen is an important protein that is a building block of our tissues. So it directly influences the quality of our tissues and pelvic floor connective tissues included. So it influences the resilience, elasticity of the muscles, and the capacity to work well. So what happens with the loss of estrogen is that our pelvic floor become less elastic, tissues become thinner, drier, less resilient, more prone to prolapse and urinary incontinence. And this may be the perfect time not for being scared, but for keeping it in mind while we're training, because we can add some simple things in the normal physical activities that we do in our training that will help our pelvic floor function better. But advice that many women hear is that they need to do kegels. Being a great exercise, kegels unfortunately cannot resolve all the problems. That's why today I want you to look at our pelvic floor as a part of the system. The system looks like a can. So it's our torso, it's the core, where pelvic floor is the bottom. On the top we find the diaphragm. The walls of this can are our spine and abdominal muscles. You can see it on the picture that illustrates it in a simple and clear way. The simplified image will help you really connect your pelvic floor with the top of the body and work through it later. So what happens in this system? The system regulates intra-abdominal pressure. So while we're breathing, when we inhale in, and you can see it, our diaphragm goes down. At the same time, our pelvic floor muscles should replicate this movement, should be synchronized with our diaphragm. And at the same time, our rib cage and our abdomen muscle should expand and be relaxed. So all the system, all this can changes its form according to the pressure changes. When we exhale, diaphragm goes up so that our pelvic floor should do it as well. We're closing our ribs and all the can becomes slimmer. So this is the perfect situation where the diaphragm and the pelvic floor functioning perfectly. But what happens in real life is that many women have this wrong pattern of breathing. They tend to suck their belly in all the time or most of the time. When you suck your belly in, when you contract it, even during your inhale, it prevents your diaphragm from moving freely, so it cannot function well. You're not opening your rib cage, you're not relaxing your belly. So what happens? In this situation, your pelvic floor has to absorb too much pressure. But why am I talking about breathing at all? I'm talking about breathing as a factor that can influence your pelvic floor in the moment when it starts being fragile because of hormonal changes, because of changes in the elasticity of the whole system, of the ligaments and connective tissues and muscles as well. And there's another interesting thing you might not consider. It's not always because your pelvic floor is weak that you are leaking. It can also happen if your pelvic floor is actually tight. Being in a situation where it has to absorb, to elaborate too much pressure, while your system, all the system on the top is not working well, can create a constant contraction. Being in a constant contraction, being too tight all the time, will not permit to your pelvic floor to react immediately when you need to hold the urine while jumping, while lifting weights, while running, etc. So actually doing kegels with your pelvic floor muscles already too tight will not help you. But what can actually help you if you're not sure of your pelvic floor being tight or weak or the nature of the problem that you have? There's a super powerful tool that we all have, and you will only need a few minutes a day and you will feel better soon, I can guarantee you. And here I'm talking about our breathing. When we breathe, we can actually teach our pelvic floor and our diaphragm to move synchronized, and we can improve functioning of both just with few minutes a day of a conscious breathing. It shouldn't be aggressive. It's so simple that at the beginning you may think it cannot actually be helpful. But trust me, your breathing is a powerful tool. So all you need to do, and you may do it any moment that you have 2 minutes during your day. You want to sit with your spine straight. You want to feel your sitting bones while you're sitting. So being here, I'm opening my chest. I can close my eyes. It will help me to connect with the internal sensations. And I just need to do a set of 10 breaths and repeat it 2 or 3 times. When I'm inhaling, I'm trying to relax my belly. To make sure I'm actually doing this, I can put my palm on my belly. That will help me to feel it actually moving. So when I'm inhaling, my belly opens, relaxing my belly. I can actually feel it opening. I can feel it pushing against my arm slightly. At the same time, I want to think of my diaphragm that goes down. My diaphragm contracts at the moment. So when it goes down, I can feel my pelvic floor doing the same thing. So you may not feel it immediately. At least draw your attention inwards and think about this movement like inhale, I'm going down to feel my pelvic floor that becomes larger. Then I'm exhaling and my pelvic floor goes up a little bit. My belly goes in without me doing nothing special because it all happens naturally. And my diaphragm goes up, becoming a dome, turning at the form of the jellyfish if you want. So this is the movement. And I'm breathing with my natural breathing, trying to make it a bit slower without any stress. I'm doing 10 breaths, take a few breaths naturally without doing nothing, and when I repeat. So the second thing you want to do is you should stop holding your belly in all the time. If you get used to do it, it will not be easy. But if you remember it just once a day and relax your belly and do 2 or 3 breaths like we did before, it'll become a step towards changing this wrong pattern. With this, I'm not telling you to relax your belly while you're wearing a beautiful evening dress. So, but maybe when you are sitting, working, when you are doing nothing special at all, just try to think from time to time, how is my belly? What am I doing? How am I breathing? And relax it. Inhale and relax your belly and exhale. If you remember this, it will make a switch in your mind. And the third thing you want to do definitely if you want to improve your pelvic floor health is strengthening your legs and glutes. So this global strengthening, not local like kegels do, but the strengthening of all the bases that actually holds your pelvic floor will help you to support all the system we're talking about today, will strengthen also your pelvic floor muscles. You may keep things very simple here. Really, what you need to do is from time to time repeat simple patterns that are squats, deadlifts, some step-ups or lunges, and some simple walking exercises with the weight in your hand. These are also called carries, so you may grasp a dumbbell and walk, trying to keep all your body stable, organized, and aligned. So we have to learn to treat our body in a different way, because when we have these aging processes with the menopause and hormonal changes on top, chances are we can have some issues. Even though the symptoms may be slightly noticeable or heavy, you want to consider these particularities while you are working out, because as you have seen, it's relatively simple. We can create the basis that will help our pelvic floor hugely with some simple movements, some simple practices. And you can find many videos on pelvic floor exercises on my channel. So leave a comment here, put a like, and subscribe on my channel. I will continue covering topics like strength training for women after 40, sexual health after 40, and pelvic floor health.